I now call on Clare Adamson to be followed by Liam MacArthur. A generous 6 minutes.
Presiding Officer, thank you for that challenge at the start of my speech. Could I first begin by associating myself with the comments of Stewart Maxwell about those witnesses and contributors that have worked with the committee in the past few months in coming to the conclusions that we have in this report. And I listened to Liz Smith talking about her frustration in all this area, but I'm also very aware that we have done quite a considerable amount of work across this chamber in the areas around these issues. And indeed, in December last year, we had a debate on permanence and adoption in this chamber. And at that time, Gil Paterson, who spoke, said it was one of those debates that shows the Parliament in its best light. And I think that this report also has the potential to meet that standard. Yes,
Liz Smith.
I thank her for doing so. You do point to the frustration that I feel, and that is absolutely accurate. I don't deny that we have come some way to addressing the problem, but one of the most stark pieces of evidence that was provided to us was when somebody told us in fairly blunt terms that we were right back where we had been several years ago, and those of us who were around at the previous time. I think the frustration is the fact that the progress that we have made is really rather piecemeal, and it's not going fast enough to address the very real problems that I think Ken McIntosh has just been speaking about, to have the courage of our convictions in some circumstances. Would you acknowledge that that's actually part of the frustration?
Clare Adamson.
Yes, absolutely, and I do have the same experience from listening to the comments that were there. But I think we also have to recognise that the committee has, in our initial inquiry, identified that we were really letting down our looked after children. And I think the fact that we took forward this second inquiry in this particular area is a new piece of work, and something that maybe hasn't given the prominence, certainly in this place, to some of the issues and some of the problems that have been existing before. I'd also like to thank Jane Baxter as a new member of our committee in recognising the very hard works of our colleagues on our own benches and across the Parliament in bringing together this piece of work that we're discussing this afternoon, because I do, and that's why I'm so pleased to be able to speak to it this afternoon. When we discussed permanence last year, my colleague Willie Coffey actually spoke about the scale of the problem that we have, and I think it might be worth just repeating some of the facts that he raised at that time, that there are up to 16,000 children who are being looked after in Scotland's local authority, and possibly up to about another 15,000 who are being cared for by relatives under informal arrangements. And so the importance of the Scottish Government in working with local authorities and other partner organisations with families in this area is so vitally important. And in December last year, I highlighted a report that Who Cares Scotland have contributed a great deal to the report that's before the Parliament today, both in their support of young people who want to give evidence to the committee, but also in their own briefings. They conducted a survey of young people last year. They spoke to 116 young people about their experience as care leavers in the system, and the quote I want to highlight in particular was from a young woman who said, "It was all too quick. I never got the time to pack my things. I would have liked to have more time to prepare, and also to have been told that going into care was an option, as it was all a shock to me when it happened. I never got to say goodbye to my friends either, which I didn't like." And I think that quote sums up a lot of the concerns that were raised by very many of the young people that we spoke to in the course of our deliberations. On that basis, I'd like to talk briefly to the 4 themes that are in the report, to the early intervention theme. And we've made quite a bit of progress towards early intervention with the rollout of GIRFEC across Scotland, and also the fact that that's going to be put into statute in the bill, in the Children and Young People's Bill. And I think that this is going some way to improve what we mean by early intervention. Ken McIntosh also talked about the challenges for social work, and I don't think we can underestimate that in the theme number 2, in the assessments, there is a huge amount of pressure to get it right for social workers, to ensure that assessments are at a standard that is acceptable and to decision makers about young people. GIRFEC again has gone some way to improve interagency and interdepartmental cooperation and to improve confidence that assessments meet requirements. But this report also asks the government to consider the concerns that have been raised and the commitment to effect that a clear timescale should be given that will demonstrate that integration is working and that we have improved confidence in the decision-making process and assessments. And I think we can't underestimate how important the establishment of CELSIS has in contributing to the improved confidence in assessments. CELSIS was set up with an aim to promote effective professional engagement with families, promote the planning for and management of high-quality assessments, and reduce unnecessary delays and improvement in performance, and planning to promote a new whole-system approach to performance planning. And also the creation, again in 2012, of the Early Years Collaborative, which is looking at evidence-based decision-making. So I think these two coming together has the potential to do transformational work in this area. But the challenge for the government and for local authorities is to ensure that the sharing of the findings and the adoption of best practices and the benefits of the research from CELSIS and the Early Years Collaborative can be used to maximum effect across Scotland. Mr McIntosh has already mentioned the importance of training and assessment in these areas, and we cannot underestimate the concerns that have been raised by social workers about the demographic challenges in the profession and the claim that there was a disappearance of post-qualification training and career development. And I think the report in paragraph 63 asks the government to address and take very seriously the concerns that were raised in this area. And if I could close finally, I think I used a quote from a young person from Who Cares Scotland, and I think that quote in itself says all we have to know about hearing all the voices in the decision-making process, which is theme number 4 in the report. And I think that there's a lot of good work going on out there. There's a lot of progress being made, and I'm really glad that this report will play a small part in improving the lives of our looked-after children.